2 minutes, boys.
All right, I'm going to get this up and running.
Oh, the anticipation is killing me.
And there you go.
We're live, guys.
And so the audio for this gets picked up from the board, so it's not like it's relying on the camera video. So.
Gotcha. Let me take this video, share it to where I need to share it, and then I'll hop into my spot.
Get out of there.
Are we on air then?
Yeah, we're live on We're live on Facebook.
Everybody panic.
It's
now
panic
it's the time
time.
for panicking. Okay.
Now is not the time for fear, Dr. Pavel. That comes later.
And with that, we cue the music.
Except it don't work. It doesn't work today.
Are we going to music then?
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to go without music. We're just,
Yeah. Just making sure. This is awkward.
Nope. They're just, we're waiting for the approval of the admins.
Yes, indeed.
But everybody else seems to get approved.
Hey, you didn't knock it off the wall that time.
I know, right? I'm learning.
Jake,
What up?
do you want to be logged in to your account while I'm watching this?
Yeah, we can do that. Hand me the pad real quick.
To anybody who's listening, who I suspect right now is just Fado. We apologize for the technical difficulties.
Oh no, these.
Cats is ready.
I threw Fado a link, so.
Yeah, we've got one viewer right now.
Probably Fado.
Almost certainly Fado.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out to our dear friend Fado.
My password is not incorrect.
Do you want me to do the girl from Ipanema real quick into the microphone? Just freestyle it. do, 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 do.
Okay.
In a studio not too far away.
Oh boy.
All right.
This is why we showed up an hour early. There were worse problems waiting. Seems hypersensitive.
Just 2 seconds. Once I get all this stuff posted, we will actually start. My bad.
We can't really see Paul on the video right now.
Well, it's because he's in the way. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay,
My
cool.
head's in the way.
Gotcha. I didn't know if you were going to be staying.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll be in the view soon enough.
Move now.
Well, to be honest,
Cool. Well,
I'm
we're
not why
approved.
people are tuning in here.
Well, hey, we're approved for
We've got 4.
5th edition, so here we are. Boom.
Nice.
Here we go.
All right, guys. Well, without much further ado, y'all
Hold
ready
on.
to dive in?
If you're going to start this, let's at least start it right.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Fear not, ranger, barbarian, magician, thief, cavalier, and acrobat.
Oh, I love it.
Who was that? That was Venger, the force of evil. I am Dungeon Master. Your guide. I love Dungeons and Dragons.
I pulled that out of our show clips because we use that every now and then.
Is that like an old school
That is.
commercial?
Oh, yeah, no,
that's
that's
the old.
That's
Dungeons
the
and
80s
Dragons
cartoon, man. Get out.
Oh,
No, that's his
dude,
job.
I'm
He's
so
the baby.
yeah, I'm the baby. That's like literally these guys are all of the experience, and I'm just here for the new perspective.
All right, and that pretty much sums up our show.
Yeah.
Welcome to this hot dumpster
Right.
fire that we like to call 3DMs. My name is Jake Frakeford. Sitting to the left of me is my good friend Paul. Sitting to the right of me is Clint. And, well, we're a D&D podcast, and we're going to try to figure this whole thing out as we go. So I guess first things first, just a little bit about each and everybody. Clint, you go because you're the one all fired up.
Oh man, all right. I played my first game ever with one of my best friend's dad was our DM, and he was very like old school. Like he played back in the day when you used to have 2 different games if you actually wanted to adventure outside of a dungeon. So we just started right there. But I've played a couple of campaigns. One of them being with Jake. That's been going on for like a year now, and I've run one game, but that game was honestly more of a drinking group with a gaming problem.
Yeah.
Relatable.
But now I do have a semi-serious game going on Tuesdays.
Semi-serious until I mess it all up for you.
Yeah, exactly. The Legion of Doom is something that is actually a part of that campaign setting, so it's getting outlandish already.
Yeah, no, fuck your plot. We're here to take over your world, son. I'm Jake. I've been playing D&D for a little over 5 years. I really just fell hard into the hobby after watching like one of the first YouTube shows. And I realized, wow, this is way better than video games. And I spent way too much time doing DM stuff, and I still have to like convince myself on weekends to go out and be social when I could just be sitting in my room making maps and writing plots. Paul, you have a lot to do with my problem.
Yes, I'm afraid I do. I'm your drug dealer.
Yeah, you were my drug dealer.
I was. But as for myself, I'm Paul. I've been running Dungeons & Dragons games for at least 8 years, and I was playing Dungeons & Dragons games, it's got to be at least 10 years ago now. Wow.
Yeah.
I've played every edition of Dungeons & Dragons that's ever been released. Yes, I've played Black Box, I played AD&D, I've played 3rd edition extensively, played 4th edition extensively, and, well, now we're on 5th edition. I've played a whole bunch of games, and I like to think I know some stuff, but there's always more to know.
Yeah.
It's just so difficult to cover everything, but I believe we're going to be trying to cover mostly 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons here on the show.
Yes, so let's get to our primary mission statement. We are going to do this show every Sunday until the money runs out, which could be very soon. We'll find out. What we plan to do is we're going to talk about both upcoming official releases, really cool homebrew stuff that we find, homebrew stuff we find that we might not like too much, but we can definitely make it work. And, well, anything else under the sun. Game of Thrones is off TV right now, but we all talk about Game of Thrones extensively when it's on. Walking Dead? No, we don't like Walking Dead. But if it relates to this wonderful hobby of ours, we'll find a way to talk about it. So,
Yeah, sounds about right.
with that,
Go ahead.
it is time for us to dive into the very first thing we did. Now, I'm not going to lie. I was a very naughty boy. I was supposed to buy everybody the Turtles PDF, and we were going to talk about Turtles extensively today.
Because who doesn't like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? In the
We're going to save that for next week. Do not spoil all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle jokes. For the love of God.
Your secret is safe with me, Jake.
Yeah,
It's too late. You've already read it.
if you're into TMNT, then definitely tune in next week.
Yeah. No. So,
Heroes in a Half Shell.
Instead, we're going to talk about something we actually saw on the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition group on Facebook. Let's pop this bad boy open here really quick. Somebody made a post the other day about, paraphrasing here, but it's wanting to use this homebrew called
I have it pulled up right here. It's called Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight,
The
specifically.
Dark Knight.
We-
Dark
Not
Knight
to be
Rises.
confused with Batman.
all of
Yes.
us were chatting about other D&D stuff when I scrolled across this. I copy pasted it and we threw it into the Discord, and we were a little tipsy, so we were a little unkind in our initial first viewing, but we
It seems there's been an
Hey.
update which greatly revives many of the
Yeah,
problems we had.
big time. Actually, just looking at it right away on the quick build chart in the that makes it look like it came out of the player's handbook. The first thing that I noticed right away was in the old one. It just gave a random skill point improvement at what, 5th level?
it was at 6, but it was like a fighter.
Yes.
They were doing it just like a
Yeah,
They're
fighter.
doing the
that's-
weird fighter cross, and for some reason they had an improvement at 10th level. I mean, I'm glad they fixed that, obviously.
Long
'cause-
story short, when we first saw it, it was just like, you want to be a fighter, but you also want to be a paladin at the same time and be way better than both.
Play the Dark Knight.
Play the Dark Knight.
Obviously,
Which
been
is
fixed
where I've
since.
found, just as you said, like with homebrews, we find things that we like and we find things that we don't like. I think that there is somewhat of a problem with some of the homebrew things of just like, I'm going to make this ridiculously overpowered thing in my homebrew.
Well, I mean,
As somebody who's done a lot of homebrew,
Yeah.
not to interrupt,
No,
but
no, let Paul
it
go.
is balance is probably the trickiest act there is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to make a horrible pun, it's a balancing act. You've got a lot to consider. Basically, you have to consider: am I stepping on somebody else's toes? Is there another class that does this but better? More than that, am I impinging on their territory? I mean, that's part of stepping on their toes, but the Dark Knight is sort of a cross between a paladin and a fighter. And I'm not sure it really is supposed to emulate either, looking at it. It feels like somebody decided that they wanted to play a blackguard, but without being, a baby-eating serial killer.
which is fair. Which is
fair,
very
because those are... There's a tradition that you have to be a baby-eating serial killer to be a blackguard, but they're cool. Black armor is cool.
Black armor is
Yeah,
very
a
cool.
Black Knight is a cool-looking guy, all
So
things considered.
we're going to tackle we're going to go over this class and we're going to tackle it because there is still a lot of stuff in here that's actually really neat.
There are problems, of course, and it's my job to be Debbie Downer, but I actually do like the class in its current iteration.
Yeah.
Just right away, one of the first things on this newest one that I noticed that what I thought was really cool, we actually talked about it a little bit on the way in, was that Well of Darkness thing. And so, according to this description, it says, beginning at first level, you discover a method to use your own life force to invoke supernatural abilities. And so, when using some spells and features, you may be required to spend Dark Knight level hit dice
Which
to
I-
actually use abilities.
I believe those are the things that you use, obviously, to recover hit points during a short
During a
rest.
short rest, yeah. So, like, basically what this is saying is, like, if you want to do this really cool thing, like, you have to sacrifice the ability to regain hit points during a short rest.
And just for everybody who's watching's benefit, let me get a copy paste here and I will post it so you can kind of follow along with what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Good idea. Honestly, I'm surprised we didn't think of that earlier. Anyway, there were some problems earlier in that many of the powers were simply ways to regain this sort of pool of points, but I do like that they integrated with an already existing system by using hit dice instead. I was very confused at first when I saw it because I wasn't sure what they were talking about, but in further inspection, actually checking the rules on resting and hit dice, it makes a lot of sense. You're living fast, you're dying young. The candle that burns the brightest dies the quickest.
Yep.
And it's got a lot of cool effects. You can use it to deal extra damage on all your attacks, which can get quite ridiculous quite quickly, depending on a one-level dip in Dark Knight could make a fighter put out absolutely absurd amounts of damage. You can use it to, I believe, cast many of their powers in one of their archetypes. And another one is, well, mostly it's used for extra damage or for using special moves with the Dark Knight. It doesn't particularly interact with anything outside that, but that's expected. I mean, how many classes have things that interact only with things outside of their class?
Now, I will say, though, where I really loved this class, like looking at all the subtypes, excuse me.
What are they
Word
called?
salad.
Archetypes?
Yeah,
Archetypes?
no, all the archetypes. My personal favorite was Ebony Champion, and here's why. Ebony Champion, like, when I first saw Dark Knight, like this actually updated version, and everything had been cleaned up, and it functions really well. To me, it doesn't, like, I still don't think I'd let a player play this in my campaign.
Seems like a great villain class. I may have to use it for a villain in one of my
But
upcoming games.
that's exactly what I was going to say. I would use it as a villain because this, to me, is like a very scalable Death Knight. Because Death Knights, for anybody who owns the Monster Manual, are freaking awesome.
Terrifying.
They're terrifying. They're great villains, but they're
You can't really use them below, like, what, level 10?
yeah. You can't. You got to wait until like level 10, and even then, it's a dicey proposition
Yeah,
because your players could actually win at that point.
In one of my campaigns, we actually ran into a Death Knight in like the House of the Dead. In this, like, we got teleported to this weird Egyptian style place. It was like very Egyptian style ruins, hieroglyphs, and things like that. And it was literally a House of the Dead.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he was
Hall of
like
Dead.
sitting on a throne. It's like the skeletons and army. We're like, okay, sweet. Like, we're total noobs to D&D at this point. And then he stands up with a big sword. We're like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, and then let me guess,
This is
he
not
just-
gonna go well.
Let me guess, yeah, he just Death Knighted all over your face, didn't he?
No, actually, we got out of it.
Oh, well, that's
our
nice.
DM was very gracious.
I wouldn't call that kind.
Yeah,
That's
that's
just like That's your DM waving a gun at you
I,
and just going, you know what I can do, right?
And we do, but in that encounter before we ran into him, we took down a beholder at like we had a party of like level 6 or 7. So I mean, we had to fight a pretty formidable foe. So our hit points were a little bit lower, and then we run into the Death Knight.
Yeah, and the Dark Knight is a way to do this with the living foe, which will help, obviously, if you don't want undead to be running all over the place. Say if you run the standard Greyhawk cosmology and undead naturally radiate evil and corrupt the land around them, you may not want the Dark Knight to do that. And, well, to be honest, the Dark Knight has many powers that do that, and I actually have some issues with that because mechanical ties to alignment are something I thought we left behind in 3rd edition. And the ability to detect as evil doesn't work.
I do. I mean, like, you're right, but that is something I still desperately want. I have it personally homebrewed in my campaign that there are paladins who can do it. Because that's just a really cool narrative thing you can do.
It is cool.
Is the paladin who has to deal with seeing every single person, like how evil every person who walks on the street is. That's a fun thing to do. I like the idea of it. In here mechanically, that's one thing I would fix, though, is make it like the...
Ping is undead or ping is a fiend or something, because the thing is, Divine Sense and Detect Good or Evil does not detect good or evil. It detects places that have been desecrated or consecrated. It detects undead, fae, celestials, and fiends, but it does not detect evil.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we
behind
would
in
go
third
to...
edition.
Yeah, I'd say we'd go back to the old paladin way of doing things, where your eyes turn blue, you look
Turn
around...
on the
it.
evil dar.
Yeah, pretty much. You just walk around in, like, Batman and any of the Arkham games, and you just have detective vision on the whole time because, do we trust that guy? Here, let me find out. Yeah, actually, he's pure evil.
And see, I think that's like the beauty of playing like a tabletop game like this, because you could always augment anything that's in the book.
Well, yeah, that's why...
You could run Detect Good and Evil that way, where it's like, as you said, the Paladin's eyes roll into the back of his head, and it's detective vision the entire time, instead of seeing Fays and Celestials as like an actual...
So that stuff was
way
cool.
it's written.
Other things, because we've got our first break coming up here. So other things really quick, just to get through on this...
podcast.
No,
The
not on
3
this
DMs.
podcast. On the... Just on
Itinerary?
the Dark Knight. On the Dark Knight. Let's take a quick look at Abyssal Channeler. I love... Okay, I'm going to be very honest. I don't think enough classes in 5e use this. I want to see more classes use a point system for abilities.
The monk does it.
Yeah,
Monk,
5e, I think Monk is the only one, isn't
no,
it?
Monk and Sorcerer are the
Sorcerer
only
does
two
as well, that's right.
who have a pool of resources for extra abilities. And Monk has that, like, it's not very effective.
Yeah, my concern is that the monk ability is why? Why are you doing this?
Well,
The
because
elemental-
everybody wants to play Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I don't blame them.
It's true. It's a good idea, but honestly, it's not. I hate to be the person who, but the rules say. It's just not very good. You've got a very limited pool of these key points. You already need to do the cool things like jumping 100 feet or punching somebody a bajillion times in 6 seconds.
Well, no, you see, something that I thought about in the shower, because I do all of my D&D thinking in the shower. Don't you judge me.
I don't judge you. I used to do them all mowing
It's
lawns.
no, I've taken gratuitous showers in a day just because I need to plot for D&D, and that's the only place where ideas seem to happen is the shower. I could see like a really fun paladin rework being done where they use a point system instead of classic spell casting.
It's such a
Because-
holdover from the old editions to have them full cast. Like, how many... Do you know Roland and the other paladins of Charlemagne to sit down and prepare their spells for 8 hours a day and start doing the waving arm gestures and chanting mystical chants? No, they go out and they smite things.
Well, no.
Charlemagne didn't have paladins. He had knights in the Holy Roman Empire after he bullied the Pope into making him the Holy Roman Emperor.
This is true, but that being
Thank
said...
you, Shouting History Girl.
And there we go. There's our first appearance of the fourth person of the show. She is off screen, I believe, right now. No, you can see her a little bit.
Well, we're not talking over her. She just does not have much to contribute to this, so she's not run a game yet. I'm sure she will at some point, and then she'll have plenty to say.
Oh, yeah.
I'm mostly talking, of course, about the Song of Roland and talking about the, I guess, mythological origin of the term paladin. But you're correct in that, yes, there were no actual paladins.
I learned something today.
Anyways,
You should read the Song of Roland. It's a real slog, but it's very important as far as
just as a quick thing to what you were saying, though, wizards, we all know that wizards are just basically the power fantasy of everybody who had a 4.0 GPA in high school.
Oh, yeah.
When in doubt, blame the wizard.
Exactly. So
Can't trust them to do anything right. A wizard did it.
I would like to see paladins not necessarily not take away spells, but I would love to see a system like this kind of implemented for paladins, because it could make the class a lot more fun to play. I mean, it's already fun just to, because let's face facts, you don't take spell slots, you take extra smites.
Yes,
because you can just
hold on. I've got extra. Let me just fill it with Thundering Smite. We're done.
yeah. I've got 3 extra spells. Well, that's all Searing Smites for today, folks.
It's
We'll
a
put,
fun.
we'll put a Thunderous in there because I like to play cricket with human beings.
Yes, I've got another paladin party. We're just gonna bounce them back and forth between each other. We'll make people take opportunity attacks.
Yeah,
as they
no,
fly between them.
that's actually one of my favorite ideas is just watching 2 paladins play badminton with Thunderous Smites. But
I feel that the martial one,
back to the main focus.
the martial one has this. It's not called leap. It's called plunge. I think. I understand the mechanical purpose. It feels a bit ridiculous to me, but that might just be me being the no fun guy. I feel like leaping up and great high into the air to stab people seems somewhat inefficient. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if you're going to spend all that leg energy, you should just be kicking somebody across the room or something. I don't know. The Abyssal something, the Berserker style, has a fun mechanic that, in fact, I used back in...
Oh, are you talking about Hellbound?
Yes.
Where they lose HP and they gain attacks?
Yes, I used a very similar mechanic for my villains in one of the first games I ever ran. But I think it's a cool mechanic. It might be too much bookkeeping. Same with their ability at level 6, that is. Whenever they take slashing, bludgeoning, or piercing damage, they'd roll 1d12 to see if they regain one of their hit points. I feel like that should be every 3rd attack or something, because it seems like, hold on, I got attacked by 30 guys with arrows. Let me roll 30 d12s and see how many points I recovered. Seems like it'll bog the game down a lot. I like the class, and in fact, I'm probably going to Frankenstein it with the Paladin to create a sort of different holy warrior class or unholy warrior.
Just kind of on the same topic as a newer DM, I've come into that problem of like mechanics bogging the game down, because the basic thing in the book does say that a turn generally lasts 6 seconds.
5 or 6 seconds.
Everything's
is the
supposed to
rule.
last 5 or 6 seconds, but if you have your players who, as you said, have like a ton of dice to roll, then you end up in this weird place where it's just like, okay, this is taking way longer than what it would seem, and whatever you're doing gets bogged down a lot.
Dungeons and Dragons, the game where a 5-hour walk takes 3 minutes, and the game where a 3-minute fight takes 5 hours.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said it better myself.
All right, guys. Well, so ultimately, final thoughts on Dark Knight.
I like it. I'm going to need to chop it up and make it into something that I find more palatable to my setting, and probably rework some of the clunkier mechanics. But obviously, the creator is open to revision. His first was far different. I was going to complain about a lot of very petty things, but he's fixed all of them. So I like it. I give it 8 out of 10 stars. And I mean that sincerely, not in the 3-point rating scale. When I'd rate an average thing 5, I like this class. It's a good take on the Blackguard that does not necessarily have to be evil.
Paul, you just messed up my whole existence by introducing a rating system. I like it. I would use it as a villain. I like the idea from, this is just a personal conceit of mine, but when I do run a villain, I like to have a villain that grows with the party, so to speak. So that way he can always be a threat, but I can manage if he's going to kill him or not. And he gives me, the Dark Knight gives me a lot of great options for, some guy, the son of some guy who's just a really bad guy who, leads an army of bad guys.
Like a Darth Vader style.
Yeah,
armor
no, he's
helmet
like a-
that you never see.
He's just a Darth Vader style dude who comes in, does a bunch of crazy magics, and is spookily dookily. And
Though, I like the ability to use Warlock powers too. There's so many cool Warlock powers that never get used because Eldritch Blast is so strong.
hold it, because we're about to talk about Warlocks in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are.
So I mean, my final notes as far as Dark Knight goes, I think that it's a super cool idea. Again, as we've said, just to reiterate, I don't think that I would let one of my players play this unless they made a really compelling argument. But I mean, having abilities just like we brought up, where some of these abilities help you regain those hit points that you spent on the ones that cost it, like Soul Survivor, where you can designate a creature that you're fighting, and if it dies within that turn, you gain back a hit dice.
A very obvious Dark Souls reference, of course. But
Yes, obviously. But I think that that's a super, super cool idea, and as a villain, it gives you a way to create sticky situations without having your villain get into too sticky of a situation if you don't necessarily want them to be.
Worst comes to worst, the ceiling can collapse and they glare at you and they stalk off into the distance,
Right.
vowing that they'll get you next time, you damn meddling kids.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we're going to take our first break. Before we go to break, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Watchtower Comics and Games, in Dexter, Michigan, and Milan, Michigan, both on Main Street in both of those small towns. Go find them on Facebook. Yeah, check them out on Facebook. Watchtower Comics and Games in Dexter, Michigan. Throw them a like if you can buy something from them. If you're in the Michigan area, please go buy something. They were really kind enough to finance our first couple of episodes, and
We owe a lot to them.
we do. All right, guys, we are going to take a break. Normally, we've got sick jams to play on the break, but
Unfortunately, this
everything has
episode-
gone wrong today. Everything has gone wrong. So,
And we even got to the studio an hour early.
and we
No
came
plan.
early today
to make
So-
sure that things didn't go
No
wrong.
plan survives
In
first
my defense as
contact.
the stage manager, you guys couldn't drink margaritas fast enough.
That's true.
That is true.
I drank mine in
Yo,
record time.
I want to throw that.
We're
shout out
squandering
to
break
you.
time. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Telling me I can't drink a margarita.
I beg your pardon. That was cruel.
Facebook Live just heard you complain about. Not
I'm sorry. I don't mean to impugn my boyfriend.
Telling me I can't drink a margarita. No, my middle name is Fast Margarita. All right, guys.
Does anybody want my laptop to read off of?
Oh, I think I'll be good.
I don't think we have anything to read off of now that we've gone over the homebrew.
Still alive.
Yeah, we're alive. Sorry about that,
It's
guys.
going to be me doing all the reading right now.
We are back
So,
from outer space. Or something like that.
something like that.
More like the parking lot.
I literally can't think of anything other than Men in Black when I hear that song now.
All right. So, on for our next segment. First things first, guys. Again, got to pop our sponsor, Watchtower Comics and Games in Dexter and Milan, Southeast Michigan. If you're in the area, go say hi. Everybody's great there. Buy some stuff. Buy some dice. Good luck finding the good dice, though, because I'm in there every week buying out their stock.
Small town mom and pop comic book shops and card shops and game shops like that are like the bread and butter of this hobby.
Oh, yeah. He's stealing all the dice that roll 20s. It's your fault.
Yeah, no, that's literally what I do. How do you think I keep my players down?
You
So
beat them down, you never let up.
I can attest to this.
exactly. Oh no! If I give you ulcers because of what I keep doing to your character in the campaign, let me know because I'll lighten up.
No.
But until then, I'm not going to
it's the
stop.
perfect. It's the perfect level of stress.
Are-
like
are
I
you
actually feel like there's things on the line.
Are you saying the best GMing technique is not to just have them be mugged and steal all their stuff every couple episodes?
Rocks fall, the parties die.
Okay.
Jake has lots of experience with that, let me tell you. I've stolen his stuff twice now.
On a
All of
separate
it.
episode about the Henderson scale of plot derailment.
We'll worry about that
Well,
later.
yeah, no. That is a.
That's an
topic for
episode on
another
its own.
Right.
Okay. So, we are going to now introduce a segment that we would like to call the Filthy Build of the Week, the Fun Build of the Week, the Best Friend Build of the Week, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to do a little build all of us come up with. It's a lot of fun that you can use either for a character in a higher level game or perhaps as a villain, a recurring villain in your game,
Horrible villain.
or a recurring NPC.
If you just don't like your players, go ahead and throw this at them.
Well, this one, if you don't like your players, go ahead and do it because, yes, that's actually the design point on this. But I have a couple that are, you can make fun NPCs with. But without further ado, God, what is the best way to describe this?
Vietnam sniper. But with magic.
That's
He's hiding in the tree line.
excessive, but not far off.
Yeah.
So let's just crunch numbers here. Let's just talk what this is at its base. This is a level 4 warlock with 5 levels of rogue and 5 levels of fighter.
So it's more like a 5th level fighter with 5 levels of rogue and 4 levels of warlock, but he started as a warlock.
But you start as a warlock. The fighter stuff comes last. So let's just go down the list of what this build is, and then we're going to talk about why it makes for great D&D.
Why it makes small children cry at night.
It's all in how you play.
What being somebody that's played in the campaign with a character that has wait, does Toombs the Gunman have warlock levels? I don't think so.
No,
There's an NPC in the game that I play with Jake that this build is kind of the basis for, if I'm not mistaken. And
the idea for it came.
This was back in 3rd edition, way back in the days
Yeah.
of 3-point Pathfinder edition.
I'm sure
Tombs the Gunman.
yeah,
I'm
Tombs
sure
is an
that
old
Toombs the
running joke.
Gunman is going to be a running joke on the show as well. But like having this be somebody that has been an NPC on our side, I would not want to fight this
In
guy.
fact, he
This is
started-
not
Well,
gonna
this
be
one-
fun.
He
That
started
one-
as a PC, as
that
Carter
one uses
Milner.
Yeah, that one uses guns. This one uses magic. Here's how it works. So, I'm just going to throw a lot of stat crunch at everybody really quick. So, let's just try to keep up.
Focus on the essentials.
So
We don't care about the individual
you
stats.
go
but-
human. You take variant human, so you get 1 bonus stat and 1 bonus feat. You are going to take spell sniper because warlock, eldritch blast combined with spell sniper can get really ridiculous really quick.
For a fun piece of trivia, Eldritch Blast scales with character level, not class level. 1 level dip in Warlock is probably worth it for anybody.
Yeah, very true. So
See, I actually didn't know that.
we
Yeah,
get
it's ridiculous. It's got to be some sort of error because otherwise, why not just take, as the old build was, why not just take like 15 levels of Paladin and 1 level of Warlock so you can have I'm just going to lob this 12
this
D6
charisma base. Well, here's the thing:
charisma-based
you
nuke at
need
somebody.
Well, you need to get your Eldritch invocations in order to be able to add the charisma damage and add the
That comes at level
the extra range.
3, right?
Still,
Those come at 2.
A ranged weapon that can never be disarmed from you is really good.
Anyways, we get the 4 levels of Warlock. For this one, because I wanted him to be spookily dookily, he is going with the what is it? The Great Old One subtype.
Because we can't let go of what some guy wrote in the 1920s. I mean, to be fair, he had a lot of good ideas, but H.P. Lovecraft.
I choose Great Old One because of the ability to have basically telekinesis, or not telekinesis, telepathy. And it makes, I designed this character as a villain for myself to use, and then after designing him, I'm really upset that I don't have a great way to use him already, and I'm like,
You bet your ass
I might shoehorn
taking him.
You can. Go ahead.
You're going to love
this,
fighting him.
This
I
is
gotta
where
tell you.
me as a player says, damn it.
Yeah. So you get those 4 levels of Warlock. We take the following skills. He has Investigation, History, Deception, Insight, Persuasion, and Stealth, with the background of Investigator, which we can get from Sword Coast Adventurer.
A good supplement. I'd recommend it.
Now,
Increases incredibly
apparently, I found this out. Apparently, when you multi-class to Rogue, you can take an additional skill. You can actually take 2 skills if you like, or you can take 1 skill and the ability to use Thieves' Tools. So I took 1 skill with him and did Thieves' Tools. I can't remember which skill I took, but I took something.
Probably Stealth. I don't think that's a Warlock class skill.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Stealth I took. I then used Rogue
Unless
Expertise.
is stealth a skill of the background?
No.
I took Expertise in Investigation, and
Makes sense as the bounty hunter type.
and gave him the archetype of Swashbuckler.
Excellent. It's a fantastic archetype. You should take it. Buy the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. Take Swashbuckler. It makes your rogue so much better as fighting.
It's the best rogue in the game by far. And after that, we did 5 levels of Battlemaster Fighter. And so this is the final result. He has 92 HP, and that is probably his biggest weakness, is the fact that he is very squishy.
Somewhat squishy. He's got decent
14th
HS.
level, 14th level character. Stat line is 10, 14, 12, 14, 13, 18. So 10 strength, 14 dex, 12 con, 14 int, 13 whiz, 18 charisma.
You got to have that charisma. You got to be charming for the ladies.
Proficiencies, with his +5 proficiency, that means his deception, off the charts. History, really good. Insight, still really strong, even though wisdom is low. Investigation is at +12.
Oh, Jesus.
And this is why you can actually play him as a straight-up villain character against people.
Have him follow people is what you're saying.
Yeah, he is basically that super stalker that you just cannot get off your butt.
He's Boba Fett.
And he can mentally message you.
I feel like investigation is like, of all of the skills that you see on the character sheet, is one of the most underutilized skills.
Well, because-
And I've noticed that you in our game have been, instead of throwing perception out there, because perception is ridiculously
Perception
used.
is the
generally.
god stat in almost every
Exactly.
tabletop
Like
game.
I always, every single time I make a character, if I have the ability to take perception as something I'm proficient in, take it every time.
Excellent optimization instincts, I got to tell you.
Every single time, without a doubt. But now that I'm starting to see in this game a little bit more of the investigation, because it can be used for other things other than just, there's with the stereotypical Sherlock Holmes with, the magnifying glass looking at footprints on the ground.
It's used to figure out what happened. And the things, of course, that you may not understand, Clint, is that investigation is pretty much the brand new skill for 5th edition. It hasn't existed in any edition for 5th.
I had no idea about that. I didn't notice that on any of the. I played an older. The first campaign I played in, it was weird. We played AD&D with 3rd edition character sheets.
3rd edition has 3 different skills that were consolidated into perception by Pathfinder and by 4th edition. That was listen, spot, and search. And you had to invest in all of those if you wanted to be good at finding things. When perception is consolidated, it became, this is the most rolled stat in the game by nearly twice as much as every other skill combined.
So Jake, continue.
Yes. So, biggest weakness, very squishy.
Yes.
Everything else, absolutely terrifying.
But I mean, you
the
could
reason
always make him not quite as squishy to make him harder to hit.
Yeah, if you're
Well, no, because this is all about tactic.
Yeah.
You got to think about how this character operates, right? He's got a low constitution.
He doesn't want to
He's-
fight you in close range.
He doesn't want to fight you in close
He
range.
can,
And he
but-
does, and he's very capable of fighting you. But what makes him devastating is my favorite combination of things in the game, which is Eldritch Lance, which makes your Eldritch Blast go 300 feet,
Instead of
Which is
120, I believe.
bonkers.
and
That's
then
great.
adding Spell Sniper to it, which makes it go 600 feet. We try not to swear, but holy shit. If you play on a regular-sized D&D battle
That's-
map, 600 feet might as well be from here to the freaking moon. 600 feet is incredibly
It's
far, and
10
this guy,
rounds of sprinting.
Yeah,
it is. You could essentially on the way that D&D battle maps work, it's like shooting somebody in a different city.
Tombs will fight you on the moon.
Yeah, he will.
Yeah,
He'll
Tombs
you
will
on the moon.
fight you on the moon.
You can't get there. He'll fight you on the moon, but
He'll shoot you from the moon and then laugh about it with no oxygen.
you don't really need what makes this fun is that he's a Pact of the Blade guy. He can walk around. He's got that great charisma. He can hide a blade in an extra dimensional space. We're going to give him a rapier because he's got great dexterity. He can use finesse, and
it's also just classy,
Yeah. Oh no. He just he pops that little blade out, and it pops into his hand. He's got white gloves on. Think Tuxedo Mask from Sailor Moon. If you grew up in the '90s and watched Toonami, you liked it, even if you don't admit it.
Oh, baby.
So, he's flashy. He's classy. He shows up.
But he doesn't.
He sits in the bell tower. He messages your mind with just like, "I'm coming for you." X gonna give it to you. All right. He's gonna,
You did not on a
X
D&D
gonna deliver to
podcast.
you.
He is
You did
sliding
not
into your.
just
He is,
quote DMX.
dude, DMX is a national treasure.
Yes.
DMX is a national treasure, and if for everyone listening on a totally unrelated note, if you haven't seen the video of DMX singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer,
Watch it.
That is everything that I didn't know that I needed in
I
my life.
actually didn't know that exists.
It is the funniest thing that I've
I know
ever
what I'm
heard.
doing
He's
next break. Okay.
He's beating on the table to make the
Okay.
drums, and he's singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
So,
Go
with
on.
this, going back over I will post this. I'm going to post the PDF for this on our Twitter.
His build is basically designed around.
That's actually a
He
super good idea. I never
makes
even thought
you
to have
come
these
to him
builds on there.
because you can't outrange him. There's not even a single weapon in the player's handbook that can.
No,
reach
it's
out
like
to
that. It's like
600
that.
feet.
Because when I thought of this and I thought of that, in what is it? Inglourious Bastards, the movie that they do, where the guy's in the bell tower. There's enemy at the gate and stuff, but there's the dude in the bell tower. I thought of that. Imagine this guy sitting up at a bell tower. Spell Sniper allows him to ignore half cover and 3/4 cover.
Oh my god!
Which means they have to sprint at this guy. Now, if we do it the other way and they're running away from this guy, because I would because
too.
he can, at 14, he can shoot 3 Eldritch Blasts on his turn with his Charisma added at 600 feet. So that's 3 attacks every 6 seconds, every turn.
Dang.
All he has to do is walk behind you at a very leisurely pace.
Yeah,
And-
I'm making this
to keep
face
you in
because I
range.
have a really, really bad feeling that our characters
I'm not-
are going to run into something like this, and I'm so not prepared for the emotional trauma.
See, but here's the thing. You
He
can
has
now do
Misty
this.
Step.
You can
He
now do
doesn't
this
care
to
if you
me.
run.
Yeah. Looking at other spells, he's got a great set of very utility spells just to help him in what could be, capturing his prey. We've got Mage Hand, which is always fun for shenanigans. Minor Illusion, Can you imagine how much you can mess with players by
Minor Illusion
I love Minor Illusion.
is one of those
making him
spells.
appear on another rooftop. The Ranger freaks out, fires an arrow. It wasn't him, but guess what? You just revealed your position, Ranger. You're getting shot with an Eldritch Blast.
Illusions are one of those spells that the only limit of the spell is not based on the character but on the player.
Charm Person and Hex. Both think like one as a way to get through things charismatically and talking, because this guy would be a suave talking kind of person. And Hex slows you down, takes away reactions, it messes with character stats. His whole idea is I've watched Bloodborne played, but I haven't played Bloodborne, but there's like a dude who I know halfway through the game comes, beats you up, yickety yak, puts you in a sack, and takes you to a different part of the game. That's what he does. He shows up, he is going to rain laser beams on you from 600 feet, and then that's why we put in Fighter and Swashbuckler Rogue.
If you rush him, he can still fight you.
Once you're in close quarters with this guy, Swashbuckler Rogue gives him Charisma 2 Initiative, allows him to be really high at the top of the order. He gets not evasion, but
yeah, the build you have right now has a +7 to initiative?
yeah, +7. He also gets from Rogue, he gets Fancy Footwork, which allows him to attack and basically dance away, so he can stick you and run when you're in melee. He can
Which
also
helps with the squishiness immensely.
and also too, I gave him of the Battlemaster Fighter stuff he can use. I gave him a bunch of very defensive ones. Riposte and Parry are the 2 that I gave, and then I gave Disarming, because that seemed very Like him, you're going after a barbarian and you knock the barbarian's axe out of his hand. Well, what's the barbarian going to do? He's going to scream at you. He's going to throw you around the room, but he can't hit you with an axe. And
Well,
Yeah, you might get like Captain Insano
There's-
power bombed, but
yeah,
he's
you might
not
get
gonna-
power bombed through a table, but guess what? He can't hit you with an axe, and that's all I worry about is a barbarian.
Unless
Well,
unless it's
unless
into
it's one of the
tax, you probably
totem
don't have
warriors.
too much to worry about.
the Totem War barbarians are going to grow claws and scratch the heck out of you.
Well, we'll
That's
worry
true.
about that later. Okay.
You got a sword. Like, yeah, you can have claws. Have you ever been, I'm sure you've been in a fight. You know how much of a threat a knife is. Now imagine, like, instead of a knife, you got, like, a foot of metal.
Doesn't matter. This is one of those things. He's a professional bounty hunter. He's good at carousing information. This is something that you can do to basically how I would use this, me personally. He attacks, he's hired, he's one of those guys. He's hired by the highest bidder. He does missions not exactly for the money, but more for the thrill kind of a thing. A bit of a Boba Fett kind of guy. Very well trained, very meticulous. You can do sexy assassin with him, and he's just got so much utility in so many places. He makes not necessarily a great main villain, but say your main villain is
A villain's right hand man or something. Like let's say
He's the Hound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say as an
Not like
example.
the
Let's say as an
Game of
example because like if you're looking here and you guys know who this amazing person is, Matthew Colville. If you don't know who he is, please check him
Just
out.
check
I've
him
learned
out.
so much about DMing from running the game. But Matthew Colville likes to run political intrigue type of games, and having a character like this in that setting. You could use that anywhere. He could assassinate any political leader at any given time from 600 feet. 600 feet
And
away.
this is like pre-high Renaissance era technology. Longbows shoot a long way, but they don't shoot accurately. You have to shoot en masse. And you're not going to hit some guy in a bell tower throwing a perfectly accurate piece of magic at somebody.
Yeah. So we're going to post that one to our Twitter. Twitter is 3DM Podcast.
I think that's a super good idea. Is any of the filthy builds that we come up with?
Oh, yeah, no,
Let's
of course.
throw them out there on the Facebook page and the Twitter for
Yeah,
all
they're
of-
going to be on the Facebook page.
Somebody
and
all
the
of you,
Twitter.
all of you beautiful people that are watching our podcast, you guys can use these in your games, or if the DM allows, and you like to be sneaky, you can go ahead and try to use this as a player build too.
Yeah,
I'd love to play a character.
The only
like this. That would
thing,
be awesome.
I even thought about just really quick. I thought about a rational train of how you could explain this. Guy starts as a warlock, starts doing assassination kind of stuff, serving as god, has to pick up rogue abilities, and then he starts learning fighter abilities along the way too to toughen himself up because just being sneaky all the time isn't working.
He gets his ass kicked in a bar a few times.
I'm sure
I know-
somebody will
oh,
tell us what's
sorry,
wrong with
I
this
swore
build.
we're not.
But
All right, guys. So that is the Bounty Hunter Warlock build. I hope you enjoyed it. And I guess we're going to skip our final break here, and we're just going to go into our last bit.
Yeah, let's just freight train right through it.
why not? It's not a huge deal. Let's do it.
Yeah, no.
I'm good.
So we've got a guest on our show tonight, or today, I suppose. It's the
Today,
afternoon.
yeah.
We can't see him on camera right now.
How I planned it.
Oh,
Yes, I-
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dave from IT in the D,
How's it
also the owner of Podcast Detroit. Has been so helpful and so delightful to us, even though we
so
are
forgiving.
literally running around having no clue what we were doing.
The hard part
chickens
is
with
making
their
it
heads
look
cut off.
easy.
Yeah.
The first thing that immediately, when we came in and we talked about doing a show here, the first thing that immediately put us at ease is when he realized we were doing a D&D content show. He's like, oh, I just found all my old books from the 80s. What a great trip down memory lane. I'm like, we're going to fit right in, guys. We're going to be okay.
This is gonna be sweet.
So, Dave, when did you start playing D&D?
God, probably, let's see, 6th grade would be my guess. So mid-'80s.
Ooh,
All right.
that's old, I gotta tell you. No offense, Dave,
No.
but my father used to play D&D around that time, and I've inherited his old stuff.
Yep.
And in fact, that's why I played AD&D.
So you guys are talking 5th edition, and I'm like, yeah, no, I still have my OG and 2nd edition books.
The black
how-
box and AD&D. Oh, yeah.
My buddy's dad that I played the first campaign with, that's how he was. Like I was saying, like the two different games. Like
Yep.
he ran the game, like he was playing from the very beginning, like back in the day when the FBI was like, this is like satanic stuff.
Now, on that note, were you part of this? Did you understand or were part of the satanic panic?
Yeah, who knew? Because and laughably, it was a kid that went to my school. That's the one that jumped off a building.
What a
and he killed
coincidence.
himself. And everybody blamed it on, oh, it's Dungeons and Dragons. That must be what did it. And no, that was a messed up kid with a messed up home life that had a whole bunch of issues, regardless of Dungeons and Dragons.
There's always a blame to point. Like
It'd
me,
be like, you're going.
me being like I used to listen when I was a kid. I used to listen to like the 70s and 80s like start of metal, you know.
Right.
And there was the story that like 2 kids committed suicide because they were listening to "Suicide Solution" by Ozzy Osbourne.
Right.
They found them listening to that record, and they're like, "Oh, well, this has to be the cause."
Oh, and Kiss is, of course, Knights in Satan's Service.
Yeah.
And, lived through all that. Back in my day.
Yeah. So that actually
Cue up the stereotypical old man voice.
no, but that does raise an interesting question. When you were playing in the 80s, did you ever have any awkward confrontations? Like, did you ever get any super zealous people, like, somebody's mom found out or aunt found out and like stormed the basement?
Didn't storm the basement. We did have a couple parents that decided they wanted to get snarky with the school.
Oh, wow.
Because we
Wait, were you guys playing at school?
Yeah. So it was like an
okay.
after-school
Weren't you?
club.
Oh, that's tight.
And so like apparently 2 of the parents got out because hype and hysteria and
Mass hysteria is a serious problem.
yeah, exactly. Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. That's
The idle mind is the devil's playground. Right here in
Idle hands make the devil's tools, is
right.
what they say.
So and they got snarky with it, and they wound up basically the one teacher who helped us out and got us up and running was like, look, we kind of have to take this off the official schedule. You guys are still totally cool to use the room if you want to. Just
We're not paying attention. No, nothing's happening.
We just to interject here, we actually just got a comment from a Kent Boatner. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. That said, I still have the old red paperback for low level, then
Yep.
blue for mid level, and green for high level in my
Hell
closet.
yeah.
It was level like 1 to 4 and then 5 to
There were there were.
6?
I'm sorry. This is totally going to show me being an absolute noob and 5e being my first one.
This is like, oh no,
man.
I'm so new to film.
They
Buddy,
had separate
everybody starts
books.
somewhere. Everybody starts somewhere.
They had separate books
yeah.
for separate levels.
Yeah, they did. You could only go to like what was level 1 to 4 or something, the early books, and then you could go 5 to 7 and then 7 to 10, I want to say.
I mean, I remember watching an
That
interview
sounds about
with.
right.
Obviously, I'm only like,
Yeah.
I remember watching an interview with a guy who
I started when 3rd edition came out.
Yeah, I
so.
think it was by 4s. I think it was 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 12.
He was
if I recall
playing.
correctly.
He was like playing the original D&D in California, where it was one of the first places it was released. And like his girlfriend was the highest level wizard in California because everybody was playing it super seriously and by the book. And she was like level 7. Like I played with you guys for like 2 months, and I was like, all right, I want to throw like really cool stuff at you guys. Like, let's just get up there.
Right.
And I was playing with you for what? Like, we played for a year in our first game? and
Yeah.
You were level 15 or something?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
So,
no,
times have changed.
Dave, question for you: do you remember the character that you played? Like what class you played back then, or?
Depending on which game I was playing at the time.
Oh, so there were multiple games.
Oh,
Of course.
Yeah. I
Okay.
had
is back in the time
a
when death was
cleric
cheap.
and a fighter.
A cleric and a fighter. Okay, sweet. I have my character in Jake's campaign is a cleric. So
A very fightery
we
cleric.
got a very fightery cleric. We got to stick together, man.
I want to ask, because I'm personally curious, not so much for the show, what was your favorite memory of this time?
God, it's almost, for me, that kind of stuff is very Stand By Me-ish. Like, the opening with Richard Dreyfuss, where he's like, I never had friends like I had back then.
Yeah.
And you
Same
look
as
back
ever
at
was.
just the pure innocence of it. Like, and it was like, that's what we did, twice a week was, we got together and, this was before, video games and before the internet and before all this other nonsense, and it was just stupid fun,
Oh, yeah.
and it was, and for that,
It's why I got it.
and my running joke now, like you mentioned our show, and every now and then we do ad reads. Fantasy football is all the rage now, and my running joke is that fantasy football is Dungeons and Dragons for guys who used to beat up guys. Who
Yeah,
play
it
Dungeons
is.
and Dragons.
Which I mentioned, like I'm in the weird situation where I do.
You're in
both.
that Venn
Yes,
diagram.
I'm in the middle of the Venn diagram for once in my life.
To quote Penny Arcade, a fairly famous gaming comic, as I'm sure you're aware, quarterbacks are DPS, the linemen are fighters, and the
Or tanks.
yeah, And everyone else is some sort of support for the quarterbacks and linemen, basically.
So
It's-
I imagine.
Oh my god!
I imagine like
Football is a
defensive
game.
linemen are like your paladins that are just like, yeah, I'm cool to get hit in the face, but at the same time, I will punch you so hard
Right.
that you don't know what day.
Well, I mean,
it
the
is.
thing is, it's so mainstream now. Like, it used to
It
be
is.
so like niche.
I remember arguing with my parents about making sure that I could get my subscription to Dragon magazine.
Oh yes.
oh my god!
Yeah. So I mean, those were
I got a
fun
free
days.
copy going to Gen Con, actually. It's a lot of fun. Oh my gosh! That's
So-
just at the point.
Have you played recently?
No, there have been threats and rumors of games forming, especially after. So what happened was my basement flooded, and I
Yep.
was going through all the boxes, and apparently, literally, that box that had that stuff. Apparently, I have moved from Boston to D.C., 2 houses in D.C., 3 houses in Michigan, and never opened that box.
I smell a streamed one shot, boys.
and so yeah, I mean it was very like and it was like I'm opening up and I'm like holy, yeah, like and it's funny like underneath that I find like all my old like choose your own adventure books,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. Just
I'm telling you, Dave, for our 2 episode, I'm gonna bust out the old like black box books that
I'll
my
bring 'em
father
in.
has shown me. I'm gonna run a game for you guys.
I'll bring them in.
Dude, if
I've run
I
a-
would love to stream a game
All things considered,
for this. Yeah.
Well,
to show off my nerddom,
Even just a
I
one-shot.
I play and run in 4 to 5 games a week. I have
Wow.
no life, I'm afraid.
I'd like to. I run one and play in one, and that's I
with
have a lot on my plate with that.
With school and work, I run a game every single night a week except for Tuesday and Friday. And I just like,
It's like the opening intro from the old '80s cartoon. Like I mean I can't tell you how many hours on the old Atari Dungeons and Dragons game.
I didn't
and
even
then
know
when Gauntlet.
I'll
that
tell
there
you
was an
what,
Atari D&D
Oh yeah,
game.
when Gauntlet
I'm
came out.
such a noob.
Gauntlet's
Oh
so
my
good.
god.
Yeah, but when Gauntlet
That's awesome.
first hit the arcades, that was like D&D Nerdvana Central. when that-
needs food.
Exactly. Blue Warrior needs food.
Green Ranger's about to die.
Now was it something like
I'm gonna
a,
shoot the food. 'Cause
Yeah.
like taking it in a more modern direction when it comes to video games? Was it something along the lines of like a Champions of Norath, where it was like a third?
Oh
person
my
type
God.
of-
No, it's 4 people running around on a
Clint,
screen.
No, we're not even going to talk about it.
Well, I mean,
Clint,
obviously, there's not the
no,
graphics
Clint.
of the PlayStation with
Clint,
Champions of Norath, but
we're not going to talk about it.
It's
We're not
so
going
much
to discuss
time.
it. We're gonna make another stiff drink. We're gonna leave here, and we're gonna go find a small arcade, and we're gonna play Gauntlet for about 30 minutes
No, 40 minutes.
because that's
Sorry,
when
I
that
gotta-
game gives you a headache.
Yeah.
But we'll play it for a solid 30.
yeah, we'll definitely have to find it because I'm definitely feeling my noobdom coming out.
It happens.
Everyone has to start.
So-
Everyone has to start
So,
somewhere.
but,
Clint.
Yeah.
then, so Dragon's Lair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dragon's Lair sick.
No, not Dragon. Oh.
I
The
love
thing is,
Dragon's Lair.
He started like a year ago. And
Yeah, dude.
No,
I've
no
only
offense to
been-
Clint.
I've only been regularly playing D&D for about a year now.
Gotcha.
I started playing D&D with
I was
football nerds.
Yeah, I mean, I was-
football jocks, I should say. Like in 8th grade, it's like, yeah, we hear you're running a D&D game. We're interested. We want to play. It's like, okay.
It's a trap.
But I mean, that's how one of the guys that's in that's a player in the game that I play with Jake is like. We never thought that our buddy, if he's watching or watches this, that Tom would actually be interested in D&D, and then he did, and he came in and played this paladin.
Yo,
and
really quick. Yeah, let's just talk about Leoman really fast because Leoman is probably the most fascinating character I've ever had.
Leoman the paladin
So-
looks like LeBron James.
Quick story. We're going to bullet time this. So, go over to run a one shot, what I thought was going to be a one shot for my buddy Tim and Clint here. So we're making their character sheets, and their roommate Tom.
Now, I don't know if you explained this or not. For those who don't know, one shot is.
One shot is a one-time only session.
It's you run a very
generally
quick
3
and
to 4
usually
hours, right?
long
Yeah, 3 to 4
session,
hours.
generally speaking. Most of my sessions run between 3 and 4 hours. A one shot can run between 5 or 6 because you're trying to basically consolidate an entire story
Right.
into that
So-
time.
Yeah.
Tom's walking around the house. He's a little buzz. He's got a buzz on him. And we're making character sheets. He's like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, we're about to play D&D. He's like, yo, I want to play.
It's so mainstream now. It's
Okay,
great.
okay, Tom. All right.
People used to beat up people like me, and
Tom
now,
sits down. So I've
Now
got
it's
two.
cool to play D&D.
I've got 2 people trying really hard on their characters. And then I've got Tom, who's a little drunk, and I have to try to explain everything to. I finally explained Paladin to him, and he's like, yo, that sounds sweet. Like, I want to fight for God. I want to fight for God, but I also, like, I want to be a ripped dude. And so we do the descriptions. Clint's character, Erevan, who
New
we
character
just
class, the Broladin.
Yeah, he's smashing
I
Miller
wanna-
lights on the top of his head.
I
and
want
he's
to
gonna
interject here
smite
because
people
this
for
is
God.
hilarious. My buddy, my best friend, who I said I played in my first campaign with his dad, just commented on the live stream and said, "Yo, I have Gauntlet Legends for the PS1. I loved that shit."
There you go. Go and play it. Go.
so
That game
I
is so
have
much
it.
fun.
Logan, I hope you're still watching. Dude, we're gonna have to play that because I have a PS1. So if you still have it, let's do this.
Anyways,
shit.
finishing the story. Tom sitting down. Erevan. Clint describes his character Erevan. Tim describes his character Huff. And so we get to Tom, and we're like, Tom, what's your character look like? And dead ass, straight into my eyes, stares at me, and he goes, "Yo, he looks just like fucking LeBron James." And I'm like, so
It's not
let
a
me
bad
get this
description.
straight. I'm not going to tell you
that's
wrong.
exactly what he said.
Dungeons and Dragons is about fantasy.
Yes.
There's
There's nothing wrong with that. Like,
There was- I told him,
Liam
hey,
and Queen's God.
I have must have
Liam
run
and
the
Queen's
full-
God
the
looks
full
just
name.
like LeBron James. He's a paladin. I was completely fine with it, but I've just never had somebody say like what their character looks like as a threat to my face. He just dared me. He's like, "Tell me I can't be LeBron James." Like, no, you can be LeBron James. If you've always wanted to be LeBron James, Tom, you are LeBron today. All right, guys.
It's not Dragons, it's about fantasy.
I think that's all of our time. Dave, thank you for coming and thank you for having us
Not
today.
a problem at all.
Yeah,
It was
Thank
a
you
lot
for
of
your
fun.
time.
Thank you for the
time in the
student-
studio
the
and-
time in the studio, the interview. This
Glad it
went
worked out.
swimmingly, I believe. I'm definitely
great.
looking forward to the future of these podcasts.
Paul, Clint, thank you for coming. Everybody, thank you for listening and thank you for sticking with us the whole time. Find us on Facebook at 3DMs Podcast. You can also find us on Twitter, 3DMs Podcast, and we're working on Instagram. We're going to get that done eventually here.
Oh, gosh.
Once more time, a shout to the people who pay our bills, Watchtower Comics and Games, and
guys
Dexter
are awesome.
and Mylan. Thank you, Ethan, very much for your continued support and belief in us doing this podcast. If you are in the southeastern Michigan area, please try to stop by one of the stores. Everybody who works there is super nice. They got a bunch of fun stuff. Stop in, help out a local mom and pop comic shop because, hey,
They're the
everybody learns
lifeblood
about
of our
D&D
town.
somewhere, and
You have
they
to start
are...
somewhere.
Just like I said, those mom and pop comic shops are the bread and butter of this hobby.
All right.
This is Jake, Clint, and Paul
Yep.
signing off.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for your time, guys.
Thanks
See
for
you
coming.
next week.